All right, good evening and welcome to the Football Rundown. Of course, we're back here today with the match preview, live one as well as Stockport County take on Huddersfield Town tomorrow, Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. It's not certainly going to be something we're going to have to get our head around, but I tell you what, it has been a bit of a weird time when it comes to football. Obviously, the last few weeks, obviously the Christmas period and the New Year period, we've had a lot of games in sort of inconvenient times, I guess you could say. I think this is probably the last game where we're sort of starting to get back to normality. Obviously, 12:30 kickoff, but I think after that it's Rotherham at 3 o'clock next Saturday. Obviously, we've got the Virtue Trophy game as well, which is something that we I guess can look forward to. Although we don't have the largest squads available to us at the moment, and be interesting to see what the thinking is in terms of squads with that game in mind as well. But obviously, the most important one this week is not the Virtue Trophy game in Harrogate. It's the game in League One tomorrow, 12:30 against Huddersfield Town, and it's a game which I think County need to. I think we really need to sort of prove ourselves, and I think that I think it says on the thumb there. I think it says show we're serious, and I think that's what County need to do tomorrow. I think we need to show that we're serious about getting promotion. The plan is for us to get promoted either this season or next season. I think that naturally, with how well we did in our first season in League One last year, I think that naturally accelerated people's expectations of where County should look to be, and that has of course meant that the expectation this season is to get it, get promoted probably a year earlier than where we plan to be. So yeah, I think we need to show we're serious, and I think, like I say, we've had disappointing results of late. We've not lost loads and loads of games, but we've probably drawn games that really we would have expected to have got 3 points from. Going into the start of this season, so it has been a mixed season. It's been a mixed season as well for Huddersfield. Obviously under a new manager in League One, his debut season as a manager, and I guess he would say it's been a decent season for Huddersfield, but a lot of Huddersfield fans don't really seem to be having him. That's something I've noticed when I've been sort of seeing what their fans have been saying on sort of social media across the season. A lot of people not really having Lee Grant as a manager, but they are fourth in the table. They are currently enjoying a 7-match unbeaten run as well. So they come into it in decent form by by this league standards. It's not bad. Like I say, I think it's been a pretty poor standard this league this season. It doesn't really seem like anyone really fancies really going for it. So I think that's why it's probably even more frustrating at times where you get disappointing results like Northampton, where we actually come away with a point, having probably not really deserved it. To be fair, you come away from that and you see that I think another opportunity where I think teams around us will probably drop points. The same story against Reading, where again it's an opportunity to capitalise on maybe other teams not doing so well. And it just missed opportunities. I think that's been the story of our season so far. But hopefully 2026, it brings a different story for us, and hopefully it does end with us getting that promotion to the Championship. I guess the question would be, and I've said it a few times now, is if we're struggling as much as we are doing at the moment in League One, and what is a pretty poor League One as well, then how are you ever going to manage to make the grade in the Championship? I guess that's something that will always be in the back of our minds this season, and it's something that we'll have to address in the summer. Um, Irrespective of what happens in terms of promotion or not relegation, promotion or staying in League One, I think that there'll be big changes in the squad in the summer. And I guess that if we do get promoted to Championship, we should therefore have a slightly bigger budget than what we would have if we remained in League One. And hopefully, with that, the recruitment team can put together a team that would be capable of surviving in the Championship. But I think that at the moment, obviously it's a January transfer window. Our biggest thing at the moment is can we with this recruitment team put a squad together by being a little bit reactionary, which is what Chalmers said we have to be in January transfer window. Can we be a little bit reactionary by getting players in that are going to help us get to where we want to be from the end of the season? Now, the January transfer window brings a lot of promise and a lot of hope for everyone. Obviously, we covered it a little bit at the beginning of the week. Had put a video out around 20 minutes long, going through the squad areas that I think we needed to improve and strengthen on, and obviously updating on people on players going back and some coming back into the building as well, like Gina KK, who's returned to Stockport County. And I think I said it on might have been Tuesday that I think he's got a good opportunity of starting this game actually with the shortages of players in his position at this point in time. So be very interesting to see what the squad is. But when we get to that, obviously it'll drop around 11:30, I'd imagine, tomorrow lunchtime. But yeah, I think let's just go over some of the things that Dave Chalmers said in his pre-match, and some of the things that stood out to me. I've not got everything here, but I've got bits of information, quotes of what he said. Um, he said that maybe we've been spoiled over the years because we've always improved every year and finished higher than the previous year. If you keep that run going and finishing third last year makes it really simple. I think he said this. He said, "Look, it's not going to be easy for us." I think he said it about Huddersfield as well. He said they've probably got a budget. I think he said this anyway. He said something along these lines about Huddersfield having a budget that is maybe capable of being top two. And how the expectations of Huddersfield would probably be to be in that top two as well. But just because you've got everything in terms of recruitment and budget towards being able to achieve that, it's still you've still got to be able to go and do it, haven't you? And it's not easy. Um, so yeah, I think that he's obviously trying to lay out expectations there. He's obviously trying to say that we've improved every year. So obviously from a fan's perspective, we'll look at it and go, well, why don't we just improve again? But it doesn't always work like that, does it? And I think I said this sort of last season. The view from a lot of people was, if we don't get promoted this season, we can always go again next season. And I was kind of of the opinion of, well, we might not get that opportunity again. Sometimes things align perfectly for you. And it felt to me like last season, things lined up pretty well for the most part. I mean, look, we're one or two refereeing decisions away from being in the championship now. And probably instead of Wrexham potentially as well. If we got second, so and look where they are. I mean, they're not a million miles away from the playoffs in the championship at the moment, which is mad. I think they're 1 or 2 points off. When I looked the other day, I wasn't looking to see where Wrexham were. I was just looking at the championship generally. But it's just the point, isn't it, that they're doing reasonably well for their first season in the championship, and that could easily have been us. But again, would it have been us? Would we have had the? Would we have recruited? Who knows? Who knows? But like I say, against Huddersfield side tomorrow, which is where the focus is, I think it's a massive opportunity. Both teams will see it as a massive opportunity to sort of build on. Obviously, for Huddersfield, it's to continue their current momentum. 7 matches unbeaten. They'll be looking to make that 8. And to be honest, I think a point for them away from home would be a really good point for them. So I think it's more important. I think the team that will be looking to get 3 points out of this game more than the other. Surely it's going to be Stockport County, because I think that Huddersfield are looking at 7 matches unbeaten at the moment. You go and get a point away, against a promotion rival in Stockport County. That would be seen as a really good point from their perspective, I'd imagine. Whereas I think that with us, I think we would look at it, especially off the back of losing to Reading and drawing with Northampton. I think when you put that into context, I think when I look at this and say, well, we almost need to win just to try and put that right. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. We've got a comment coming. Fans expecting a £1 million player to be the best in League One will be sorely disappointed with what we could attract in the Championship. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously talking about Malik Mothersill there. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I think it's a really good point. I mean, look, we go back to it. We go back to the summer with Malik Mothersill where we signed him, and I thought it was a bit of a. I was surprised that we spent money on a player, to be honest, because we do typically do business for either an undisclosed fee, which kind of it's never been a club record fee. So you always get the impression it's been a kind of standard fee, maybe 500,000 or something like that, or it's a free transfer. We never really do. We go out and what we did in the window was we went and bought 2 players for, by our standards, big money, and I think that surprised us. And then that again also raised expectation for the fans as well, because if we managed to get third last season, which I think is where we finished in the end, third, with how we've been recruiting, which has basically been getting players on free transfers, loans, and then buying for a relatively cheap fee, then when you then go and spend big money on 2 players and you on top of a team that finished third, I know we lost players, but the idea then and the expectation is, well, we're really going for it this season. And so when that happens, naturally expectations, you look at Malik Mothersill's record as well in League One over the last few seasons, quite rightly, fans thought we've got probably one of the best players in League One here, and that'll get us over the line. And I think, to be fair, I think the club thought you get Hills in across the whole season, and you get Mothersill in, one of the best players from a stats perspective over the last few seasons, in League One, that'll get us over the line. Unfortunately, Hills has been had 1 or 2 injuries, although I think he's come back and been really, really solid actually for us, especially against Northampton. It felt like he was the only player actually willing to had the ball out of the area for us. Um, although it's actually still, to be fair, yeah, I think he come up with a back injury. He then wasn't starting games for a while. When he has played recently, he's looked like he's been in games, but I think Challoner spoke about it as well. He wants to get him closer to goal. I think that a lot of the time he's found himself on that left-hand side, and he's not really ever in a position where he can really go and get a shot off, really. I mean, it was a decent shot, was it against Northampton? It was tipped over the bar. Was it ever really going in any way? I'm not too sure, but yeah, it has been frustrating with Malik Mothersill. There's definitely a player in there. There's a part of me which just thinks it's not him because he's proven it at Peterborough year in, year out. Then you look at County not being as good as they've been over the last few seasons. I think Malik Mothersill not hitting the ground running at County. I think that's got a bit more to do with us and how we are set up as a team than it is him. And I think that if we can fix our problem, I think we'll see Malik Mothersill start to put in performances because we have seen snippets there. I know people question his attitude. I know something kicked off with Charlie and him. I think when he come off against Reading, something he wasn't happy about coming off, something like that. I didn't see that, so I'm not aware of what it was, but I'm aware that he wasn't particularly happy or something along those lines when he came off. And to be fair, I thought he was one of our better players. So I can kind of see his frustration. I also thought that we looked less of a threat in the game once he come off. And um, I guess I do look to defend Mothersill a bit more than some people guess in the fan base. I think it's mainly because there are some fans who, as soon as things are not going right, we're looking at the first, basically the last person to come in the door almost and go, "Oh, it's him." And I look at other players and I go, "I think Diamond's quite wasteful with chances." I know he goes on to he gets the odd goal here and there, but I think that he gets on the ball so many more times than Mothersill, and I think that the output that the numbers he has considering the amount of time he finds himself on the ball in games. I think that if you're going to look at anyone, Um, not that we should be singling players out, but I think that it should be more spread across the team, the criticism. Um, for example, like I've just said, Mothersill not started loads of games. There's been games where we haven't played well, and Mothersill wasn't even in the squad. So it's not Mothersill that's the problem. Is he a symptom or is he a part of the problem potentially? But I seriously think that if County can fix the problems they've got this season, I think we'll see Malik Mothersill help us, drive towards promotion. And I think, look, what are the problems with us? Well, there seems to be a lack of um, I guess a lack of quality in the fullback positions. I mean, for me, right back's a really vulnerable area. O'Keefe's obviously gone back now to Barnsley. I think it's the right decision, but again, it leaves us weak in that area of the pitch. I know we've brought in Jida KK back from Walsall, who's by all accounts had a decent spell there in the first half of the season. But can you really be throwing him in there as well and relying on him to help us get promoted to League One? Probably not. I sort of look at that right wing position, that right wing back position rather, and I think, we've tried Fevs there, we've tried Shea Gardner there, we've tried I think we might have even played Jack Hunt there at times. We played a back four and played a Olowu, and Hills there. We played on Yanga. We've tried so many different players in that position. It's so clear it's probably the most important position that we try and address in the January transfer window because we're just so unbalanced. I mean, also at left back as well. Gonna look at left back, Owen Dodgson has not been up to standard. I thought he looked okay the first few games. He's not looked near that since. Even Terry Eden came back in after so long out injured, looks good initially, as sort of, recent games hasn't been quite as solid, but again, still think he's better than Dodgson. To be fair, as you'd expect him to be, he's an older player, he's played at this level, a lot longer. But I actually think Ben Osborne's probably the best player for us to play left back or left wing back, and he's meant to be a midfielder. So I think that we could do worse than maybe look at bringing in a left back. I just think that the sheer amount of options we've now got there with Dodgson and Eden and Osborne who can play there, and even Pye if you're absolutely desperate can play there. I don't think we'll bring in a left back, but I seriously think that we've made a big mistake by getting rid of Ibi Toure. I said it at the time as well. If you go back to the summer, I was saying it at the time that he's so so robust. He never misses a game. I think he was might have been in the top 5 players for games played in League One in 2025 across the calendar year. I think it was something like 55 games played in League One. He never gets injured. So I think that's a really important thing. He could defend. Yes, he wasn't the best in the halfway, and I think at the moment what we have struggled with this season is players that we can rely on, players we can hang our hat on and go, yeah, we know we're going to get a solid performance out of him. So I think we made a mistake getting rid of him, but that's been and gone now. That that's not gonna we can't do anything about it now. But I think that's been the problem. I think we've lacked players that you can rely on. Ollie Norwood obviously he's picked up the injury. He very rarely gets injured. He picks up that injury. He's not quite looked the same player since, um, and hopefully that will change. But again, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? That we're pinning all at the moment we're pinning all our hopes on a player like Ollie Norwood, who, let's be honest, he's 33, 34. He's not getting any younger. We're pinning all our hopes on him being available for every single match, and if he's not, we're basically saying we're gonna drop off like we did when he got injured. I mean, you're not gonna get promoted if that's the case. So, I think that we need to, we need to have a bit more players in the squad that we can rely on. Obviously, we missed Lewis Bate as well. That's been an unfortunate, sort of beginning of the season for us losing him. He was a player which was a really decent player for us, one of the better players. Not had him yet this season. Callum Camps has been sort of injury prone. I feel like he's had 2 or 3 or 4, maybe even 4 injuries this season. Unfortunate. Um, so yeah, it has been a case of not having players you can rely on, whether or not it's due to performances or injuries, whatever. It we have struggled for consistency, and therefore I think we've struggled to put out consistent lineups. And when you constantly chop and change, then I think things are going to look a bit zigzaggy. And I think a lot of our performances this season have been a bit zigzaggy. So yeah, I think that's why we are where we are at the moment. With all due respect to the coaching staff, from my point of view, players are doing precisely what's asked of them. Interesting comment if you want to elaborate more on that one. Um, what do you think it is that the coaching staff are asking from the players? Um, that's yeah, it'd be interesting because when I look back at seasons gone by, I don't think we do look like the same team. Not just in sort of quality, but also in how we approach games. I don't think we're front-footed enough. I don't think we're aggressive enough. I think if you go back maybe 1 or 2 seasons, I think you could clearly see what County wanted to do and how they wanted to play, and they very rarely would have to sort of deviate and go away from that because it worked. Um, so I think that I think that I might have said it a couple of months ago. I think I said maybe even an identity crisis, not knowing how we want to play, not knowing our strengths, almost not playing to our strengths. Well, it's interesting this week because obviously did the video on Tuesday. Since then, we did officially sign Josh Stokes on loan from Bristol City, and in part of that statement, which I was quite pleased to see, Dave Chalmers said, I can just find it here. Obviously, a player which has scored against us a lot in recent seasons. Another problem with it though is he's just had injury problems. But I think he said something along the lines of I can't find it now, which is really frustrating. But he basically said he sees Josh Stokes as a Stockport County player. Um, so that was really interesting because what does it mean to be a Stockport County player? He says he's a player which really suits the county and how we play. So I'm really interested to see what Josh Stokes will do. Hopefully he'll put in a good performance. But again, is it not a little bit Barry? I mean, we're expecting to have this impact. He's gonna be the saviour to our season. He's going to come. He's gonna, get on the ball. He's going to score us goals. I think that's how people seem to be talking about him, and it's like, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we can pin all our hopes on him. I think Chalmers kind of said that as well. Like if he's going to have an impact, it'll be across the season, not necessarily going to come in and hit the ground running. He's obviously just come back from injury. He's had very limited minutes this season for Bristol City, so I think it'll be interesting with him. Obviously, it offers excitement because it's something different, and I think that the best thing County can do tomorrow is put him straight back at straight into that starting 11 because it's going to be something different. We're going to see something that we haven't seen over the last few months, which is hopefully a player which can come in and hit the ground running without that expectation to. Hopefully, that is what you can come in and do. We're crying out for someone to come in and show that sort of like almost Louis Barry type performance where he's going to get on the ball. He's going to look. I'm going to score his goal here because we need someone that's going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. I'll meet up with you pre-match tomorrow if you're up for it. I'll not bombard you with comments here. No, it's fine. I mean, the comments are always good. It's what we want. If anyone does have any thoughts or questions they want to get in about the game tomorrow, or even just beyond that game, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I had a bit of information as well. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll go to the injuries because this is what he said in his pre-match, which was dropped about a few hours ago now. He's asked about injuries. He said Onyango, Connolly, Hoskin, and Camps are all looking towards the end of January, if not beyond that. So we're not going to be seeing Onyango, Connolly, or Hoskinen Callum Camps anytime soon, which I think is really frustrating. I mean, I feel like we've barely seen Camps this season. Hoskinen, we've not seen at all. We don't even know if he, exists at this point. Callum Connolly, I thought I actually wasn't the biggest fan of him last season when he come in from. I think it was well, not from Wigan, but his contract expired. It was either Wigan or Blackpool. I think he just left. I wasn't entirely over the moon with him. I think this season I've watched him and I feel like I've seen a better version of Connolly. He's looked a lot better. I also think we put him in a better position as well because I talk about it a lot. I think he suits playing in that middle of the back three. I think he looks really comfortable there, and it's been disappointing since he's been injured because I think just before that, did he get a goal as well from a corner maybe? So yeah, I think he's been a very solid player for us this season. It's a shame he's not been available. Onyango's a miss as well. I'm a big fan of Onyango. I just think we've not found the best position for him in our team at the moment. I don't see him as a right wing back. I see him as someone that can play on the right of a back three, or someone that can even do a job potentially in midfield. I don't see him as someone that's going to play as a right wing back or even as a right back in a four. So I like Onyango, just probably not played to his strengths this season, and that's not really that surprising, is it? We've struggled to play to a lot of players' strengths this season, and one of those players is even Cal Wootton. I don't think we've played enough to his strengths this season. I think he's got 10 goals to his name already in League One. So I think last season was it last season? Last season, I think he scored 14 in the league. He's definitely going to surpass that this season. He's had a really decent start. Obviously, scored his 50th goal for the club on the last home game, and actually the last game of 2025, and also was our last win. But I just think that, like, he's done well to get 10 goals, but I actually think we could have got even more goals this season as well if we did play to his strengths. And my understanding of it going into the season is that right, we've got rid of the right backs because they're sort of not robust enough. They're too injury prone. We got rid of Torre because he's not good enough going forward. And you go, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And they're like, right, well, we're going to bring in Dodgson, we're going to bring in O'Keefe, and we're going to get crosses into the box for Wootton. And I go, okay, well, I'm on board with that. We're going to play to Wootton's strengths. But he's always the guy that plays up front for Challoner. He's never really going to change. He's never going to drop Wootton. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm on board with that. We're going to ball into the box, which is playing to his strengths. Most of the goals he scored this season with crosses into the box, I think. So that sounds like a great idea. We just haven't really done it. It's just not really worked, and I think that we aren't trusting the ball enough for him. And even when we look hesitant to. So I don't really understand it, but I do think as well. Sometimes if there's nothing on as well, just put the ball in the box. The ball in the box. It's much better than playing a pointless pass, backwards, which is what we did a lot at Reading. I mean, I think there was one point in the game, again, they all blew into one now. I can't remember if it was Northampton or Reading, but I'm pretty sure it was Reading. Vevs had got the ball down the right-hand side. He then got to the point where he turned back, which is really annoying, really unlike February as well. He passed it back into midfield, then the ball went back to the centre backs, then it even went all the way back to Hinchcliffe, and I just thought within, like, 30 seconds, we'd gone from looking like we could put a ball into the box or cut in or do something to go forward, and we've ended up with the ball going back to the goalkeeper, and I was in despair because I'm like, that was a missed opportunity there. And, I know people can say, "Oh, we're being patient," but I just call it cautiousness, and I think it really, really frustrates me, that we don't look, at it enough, and it really disappointed me that with February as well, because that's the one player I do always look to and go, "He don't do that, he just gets the ball and he runs at teams." So to see him do it, I'm like, "Oh god, we're killing this player at the moment, aren't we?" Um, Wholeheartedly agree, Onyango is a right-sided, defensive midfielder, not a right wing back. Exactly. Exactly. I think we need to play to his strengths, because we are wasting him, and, probably why I mean, I can't remember how we got into that, but, there's a lot of running involved playing him as a right wing back up and down, and I think that, that might contribute to injuries because if you haven't got the body right the right type of body to do that, then you are gonna get injured because it's a very specialist position playing as a wing back. You're constantly up and down that pitch and, there's not much hiding. So I think that, yeah, I don't know if it's linked. I can't remember how he got injured now, if I'm being honest, but it doesn't help. I do think that he would be better suited playing as a centre back or potentially in midfield, especially with the injury problems we've had this season. I can't believe we haven't actually tried him in midfield. I guess we've probably been in the position where we have a load of other players injured. He's also been injured. That's probably the reason. But yeah, um, we're not going to see any Onyango, Connolly, Hoskinen, or Camps until the end of January at earliest. Now, Lewis Bate, he didn't mention that in regards to that question. What's happening with Lewis Bate then? This is what Challoner had to say on that one. He said that he's finally starting to believe he'll be back after so long out. Probably for the first time this week, he's probably seen some light at the end of the tunnel. We have to make sure we manage that and we tape his expectations accordingly. But he's obviously keen to get involved and have an impact. Hopefully, we see him in a not too distant future. So that's where we're at with Lewis Bate. Hopefully, we'll see him back shortly. The fact that he sort of said those players, yeah, we won't see to the end of January at least. And he said Lewis Bate, we might see him in the hopefully in the not too long distant future. That tells me that we probably look at not the game tomorrow, maybe not even the game on Tuesday against Harrogate, or maybe not even the game against Rotherham, but certainly by Cardiff, I think we'll start to see Lewis Bate get some form of involvement, even if that's just on the bench or something. So that fills me with some sort of positivity because we're crying out for really good options in midfield. Moxon's obviously not been that. I think as well, there's a lot of people waiting for Moxon to sort of move on. I think it feels like. I think we're probably in a position where we're almost waiting for Lewis Bate to come back, almost let Moxon go. So I don't think we'll see Moxon move on until we know we've definitely got Lewis Bate back and then doesn't get re-injured. So obviously that'll be a concern. So yes, that's where we're at injury-wise, got the words out. Obviously, we come into this game off the back of losing 1-0 to Reading. It was a much more improved performance than what we saw against Northampton. But I've said it a few times now, the bar was set so low, but with the Northampton performance, I'm surprised we even managed to get a point from it in the end. And if we deserved the point from any one of those two games, it was actually probably the Reading game. But at the end of the day, we do ourselves over by switching off and allowing the best player on the pitch, probably for Reading, unmarked on the edge of the box to do exactly what he did. So we've only got ourselves to blame really in sort of in regards to that. Huddersfield have also not won yet so far in 2026. They've drawn with Lincoln and Exeter to start the year. So they're looking for 3 points as well. Um, Been a weird season for them because obviously Lee Grant, new manager, debut season. He started the season reasonably well as well. 6 wins, I think it was 1 draw and 3 defeats from the opening 10 League One matches. 6 clean sheets as well in that time. So it's a pretty strong start to the season. But as again, Huddersfield fans still weren't that pleased with him. Um, Around the time we played them, which was the 11th game of their season, I think, in the league, there was still a lot of people questioning Lee Grant, which I thought was, from the outside looking at Huddersfield, I thought was bizarre because I thought that, you know, they were in a decent position. Then they go and lose to us. I think it was 2-1 when Onyango got sent off, but we still went and won the game. Um, and yeah, we come away with 3 points from that. And I thought, yeah, it's a decent 3 points. Probably one of the best, probably one of the best games I've actually been to this season, actually, in terms of just atmosphere when the 2 goals went in. Not really been too much to smile about this season, despite the fact we're sixth. Who would have thought it? So yeah, it has been pretty. I don't want to say dull season because look, we're in a much better position than a lot of teams. We're still in a position where we're going to potentially get playoffs. And look, we could still get second as well. So I'm not going to say it's been a terrible season, but in terms of context, when you put it into context in terms of where we were last season compared to this season, it has massively dropped off. Huddersfield will be interesting. Like I say, they started the season well. Since they lost to us, they lost another 2 games in a row, so they lost 3 back-to-back games in a row. They've only lost 2 in the last 12 since then, though, and like I say, a few draws recently, but they are currently 7 matches unbeaten. And like I say, I think for this season's standards, with how the league's been, that's a pretty strong position for them to be in. Um, another comment there. That's what I'm suggesting. Coaching dictating play, not a player being allowed to make their own decisions. Fevrier taking the ball to the box, then within 10 seconds it's back to Hinchcliffe. I absolutely agree with that. I do agree with that. I think the only player that we give that fluidity to is Jack Diamond, and I think that I don't even know if we give him that or if he just takes that decision off his own back, which is why I think people do like him because he does have that element to sort of play with outside of the system. But at the same time, it frustrates the hell out of me because I also think if you are gonna do that, you've gotta you've gotta do a little bit more. You've gotta have a better sort of end product, and he doesn't have that, and I think that that's what we're all looking for, aren't we? We're all looking for that sort of Louis Barry type player that gets the ball and he goes, "You know what? I'm not gonna pass it sideways and backwards. I'm gonna run at teams." The difference is it works with Barry because he's got the end product as well. 9 times out of 10, he's gonna score. Feels like 1 time out of 10 with Diamond, he's gonna get that goal, and I think that's the frustration, to be honest with Diamond. I think Motherstill's that kind of player. I think Motherstill wants to be able to play a little bit more expressively, but for whatever reason, he's probably been chucked out onto the left-hand side and being told, "You've got a job to do." But to be fair, he's also not doing that job in terms of the defense side of the game because a lot of the time when we lose the ball, he doesn't bother, does he? He doesn't track back. So I think that can you even play Diamond and Mothersill in the same team if both of them are kind of like luxury players? I don't know, but be interesting to see if if we see that change in the second half of the season, especially Josh Stokes coming in as well, who's sort of seen as like an attacking midfielder who can also play central midfield. I think it's like, how are you gonna manage playing Mothersill, Diamond, and Josh Stokes and also Fevrier? Like, how are we gonna mix all those 3 or 4 players in together? I'm not too sure, but, one thing he certainly does give us is options. There's no doubt about that now. We definitely have options. The one thing I do see now, especially with Nathan Lowe missing and going back to, Stoke, is I wanna see us get another striker in. Whether that be on loan, to be honest, it probably will be a loan deal. I wanna see a different type of striker come in, but I think Chalmers spoke about it in the pre-match as well. I've not got the exact quote, but he basically said, "If we can to find someone that would be a top goal scorer in League One, you're not gonna find them. They're not available." So, I think that's part of the problem, at the moment. Just checking through it. My apologies. Um, yeah, so we're not gonna find, a potent striker in front of goal that can score in League One in January. We're probably not gonna find that because to find that is gonna cost us a lot of money, and I think the club are looking at it and think, "We've already spent a lot of money, in the summer in Hills and Rotherstill," and they might also look at that and think, "Do we really wanna go and spend big money again?" They might feel like they've had their hands burnt a little bit because I know Hills has had injury problems, but they'll look at it and say, combine the amount of money they've spent, have they really had a return on those players? Probably not, and let's be honest, it's the first time in a while they've probably gone out and spent big money for, you know, but sort of by their standards, and it hasn't worked out this moment in time, has it? So they might not really wanna do that. I've heard people talking about Mullin as well, by the way. I mean, I'm not even gonna entertain the idea of bringing Mullin, to County in any way, shape, or form. It's not worked out for him at Wigan. He's a Wrexham reject. He's probably National League, League Two level at certainly at this moment in time. Absolutely no way are we considering Mullin, despite a lot of people on Twitter saying things like that. So that's not a serious option. So I don't really know who we would look to bring in, but I think we need another type of striker. Probably will end up being an academy. Let's face it, it'll probably end up being a Premier League sort of academy striker, which is looking for minutes. If we can just find someone with a bit of pace that can offer a bit of pressure up top, you don't even need to necessarily be a goal scorer because Santa Alafi wasn't the most natural goal scorer, but what he did do is he was a bloody nuisance for defenders to deal with. He would press you, he'd be on your back, he would not give you any time on the ball, and I think that's another thing that we're lacking at the moment this season. Pressure up top, it's not really there. I mean, one of the things I will criticise Wootton for, and it's not necessarily anything you can really do about, is he's obviously not the quickest. I think even the big Wootton fans will acknowledge that. So therefore, we do struggle pressing from the front, certainly aggressively. With a lot of time, he does his best. He sort of runs towards the keeper, whatever. But by the time he's got there, the ball's already gone. So I think one of the best I've seen us play this season, and probably did it during that sort of 7 or 8 game unbeaten spell of our own, is I think we played a bit of a front two. think whether or not it was Benno Anderson playing there or it was, Nathan Lowe coming in, we would play 2 up top and, like I said, that'd be Wootton and Lowe or Wootton and, Benno Anderson, and at least there we had a bit more pressure from the front. And in a lot of those games, it was almost like I think it was against Cardiff. I think we might have even played 4-4-2. But we got that pressure from the front there. Let's face it, we should have won that game against Cardiff. Sort of mid-September, I think it was. And I think that works a lot better. I think since we've been playing back with the lone striker, we haven't been as sort of gung ho, or certainly haven't been as much sort of pressure from the front. And I think that's where we've sort of struggled. So one thing I would like to see us do in the second half of the season is not necessarily play 2 strikers, but can we certainly put 2 up top or 2, sort of near the top, so we can at least put a bit of pressure from the front and force teams into mistakes and not let teams play out, 'cause, we give teams too much time to play out from the back, in my opinion. Motherwell's Posh highlights vid had him at his best playing behind the striker. Really good point. Really good point, and that's the thing at the moment when he is playing, he's playing off the left. We need to play him behind the striker, but the problem is that's where Jack Diamond's sort of playing. He sort of roams behind the striker, but he kinda goes out wide as well, and that's what I was saying before. He's almost the only player that's got that complete freedom to play how he wants in the team. Can you really afford to give both players that freedom? Probably not. So, yeah, it's a problem for Challinor to manage against Huddersfield tomorrow as well. Like I say, both teams are in a sort of weird spell at the moment. Huddersfield, we're actually on level points with Huddersfield, even though they have lost the game more, but they're really good in front of goal. They've scored the most this season, 45 goals Huddersfield have scored in League One this season, and they've actually scored 5 more than top of the league, Cardiff, as well. So it's their defence which, would be the biggest worry for them. I think they've conceded 34 this season in the league. Um, Only 4 teams have actually conceded more goals than Huddersfield, I think, in League One this season, and 21 of those 34 goals conceded have been conceded when Huddersfield have played away from home, which could really play into County's strengths. Having said that, Huddersfield are actually the team that have scored the most goals when away so far this season, with 18 goals scored as an away side. Having said that, County have scored 17 away from home as well, so a bit of information for you there. Now, just giving people an update on what's happening from a Huddersfield perspective, Owen Goodman, goalkeeper, he's gone back to Crystal Palace, I think, because Lee Nichols is number 1, and Goodman just hasn't managed to get the minutes, I think, this season. Ben Wiles has completed his move from Huddersfield to MK Dons, and I think he's filling in for, obviously a player we know well, Will Collar, who's picked up an injury there recently. I think he's been out for 2 or 3 months at MK Dons. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that one. Leo Castledine as well, one of the league's highest scorers this season, 10 league goals, I think it is to his name. He's just completed a permanent move to Middlesbrough, so that's absolutely brilliant news for us because it means we don't have to go up against them tomorrow. So yeah, that's been a bit of a busy one this week for them to deal with. It'll be a big blow for them. It's one of those kind of transfers, isn't it, where it's a bit like when we lost Louis Barry last January. Like the whole everyone around us, it was buzzing that we lost Barry, but we were gutted. And I think it's probably a little bit like that with Huddersfield. Like we're buzzing. We don't have to go up against Castlebar now, but they'll be looking at it's a huge blow for them. As I say, 10 league goals this season, and he's just completed a move to Middlesbrough, and that's the part of the problem with a loan move, isn't it? Because he wasn't their player. He was on loan from Chelsea. They just sold him to Middlesbrough. They've got well over 1 million for him. And he's signed a 4.5-year deal, I think it was with Middlesbrough. But guess what? Huddersfield haven't got anything from that. So that's part of the problem when you lose the loan market. It's like us with Barry. We developed him, we increased his value, but you know, we're now in a position where we'd love to have him back. It's probably only the injury problems to his name, which are a bit of an issue for us. But for all the effort we've put into developing him as a player, we don't really have much more to show for it other than obviously what he gave us at the beginning of that 23-24 season and what he gave us in the half the season last season. But in the end, we didn't manage to get promotion anyway, so did it really work? Probably not. So yeah, it's interesting for Huddersfield. I'd say it'll be a big blow for them, and they'll have lost a lot of confidence going into this game, having had one of their best goal scorers, not available now. Moved on. dead air time when I'm having a drink. I'm fully aware of that one. Huddersfield look class going forward. Castledine is unbelievable. As for pace, we had Ben Knight on loan without playing a game for us. Yet ran rings around us in the cup for Cambridge. Um, yeah, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, he was there, wasn't he? Yeah. So, and I think we just had the acknowledgement there. Wow, thank God for that. I'm guessing that's the Castledine news. So yeah, so he's completed that move to Middlesbrough, which is I wasn't sure what was gonna happen with it because I saw it at the beginning of the week and I thought, "Is he gonna go? Is he not? Is it gonna be done in time?" There were rumours of it, and I think it's just been completed today, so that's, brilliant news for us, obviously. Like I say, though, home form, 'cause of this is where, it's being played at Edgeley Park, and to be honest, I think I'd probably rather it be put be played, at their place with our record away from them this season. 15th in the home table, 1 win in our I think it's 1 win in our last 5 home league matches. Um so yeah, it's not been a great time, and I think here's another point as well. Here's a question I was gonna ask: Our county are flat track bullies because we've beaten 4 teams in the current top half of League One. So Mansfield, Wycombe, who are 11th and 10th, then we've beaten obviously Bolton and Huddersfield, the 2 sides that are just in front of us, I think, in the table at the moment. But we've also lost to Lincoln, Bradford, Stevenage, Luton, Peterborough, and Reading as well. So we've not been great against teams that are currently in the top half of the table. So are we one of these teams that are really gonna get sort of smaller sides apart from your now we beat Doncaster, never mind. Struggled against, but obviously they've had a bit of a drop off, but they are actually still only 2 points off us, I think, with 2 games to play. They're currently 7th, I think. So yeah, I think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be an interesting game tomorrow. Like I say, our record isn't great at home. Our record against teams at the top isn't great. But the one thing going for us is that we have already beaten this side once this season already, and we do have it's 2 wins over them out of 3 over the last few years as well. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I said, they concede a lot of goals, especially away from home, but they also score a lot. I think if we're gonna get anything out of this game, we're gonna have to match them for goals. Now, it does help that they've lost the striker, pivotal striker for them as well. But I think this game's got a 2-2 written all over it. I think that, I think we'll really push for the win. I think we have to push for the win. But I think that Huddersfield will look at it, and I think if they can come away, from this game with a point, I think they'll look at it and they'll feel like they've got the better of the game. The one thing for me as well is it's about getting that first goal for me with County because a lot of the games recently, we've got to go down first, and it's very difficult. We don't seem to have that ability to fight back and get ourselves back in the game and overcome a result. Um, but when we do go going front, we manage to get something out of the game a lot of time. I mean, we only lost once this season in League One when we scored first, and that was August, where we lost to Bradford. So Moxon scored 16 minutes in, and then we went on to lose 2-1. I believe that's the only time we've lost when scoring first this season, which is a remarkable record. It's just a shame we don't have the ability to um, overturn a result when we do go goal down because that is something that has happened a lot recently. And look, if for me as well, half an hour mark, usually the last few weeks it feels like, especially at home, if we if we get to the half an hour mark and we haven't conceded a goal, I'm pretty amazed because we've seen a lot of teams score against us between the 20th and the 30th minute recently, and it never seems to end well for us. Interestingly as well, if County do fail to win against Huddersfield this weekend, it'll be the 3rd time this season that County have gone winless in 3 back-to-back league matches. If we do that, that will be as many times as County did across the whole of last season. So, we've gotta make sure that we don't manage to fall to defeat. Like I say, am I confident going into this game? Um, no, I wouldn't say I'm confident. I think the one thing that I do have going into this game is that we might see Josh Stokes play, and that is a bit of an unknown quantity, if you like. So I'm interested to see what he'll do. But injury-wise, we're not really going to see anyone else come back. So we don't have players that weren't available before, from the last few games that are going to be back available. The only thing we've really got is Josh Stokes, and we're hoping that he'll offer us something that we haven't seen, maybe a spark, maybe, that we've sort of been looking for. Unused Aberdeen striker, uh, I'll go again. Unused Aberdeen striker, Kusini Yengi, apologies for the mispronunciation potentially, is being chased by League One is county. Um, Potentially, potentially in the race. I've not heard it's a name I'm unfamiliar with, which is probably obvious from the fact I was unable to say his name. Maybe one to keep an eye out on. What I would say when it comes to rumours as well, a lot of the time there'll be a striker, maybe one or two League One clubs are looking at, and you'll see rumours where basically the whole league's looking at them apparently. So we don't know. We don't know who we're looking at. I do think we need a striker in on loan in January. I almost felt that going into January. That was even before Lowe got the injury and moved on. I feel like we need a bit of firepower. I think we need a spark. I think we need someone that's going to get us goals. At the moment, sounds like Josh Stokes could be that guy, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the big one would be Louis Barry, but he's injured at the moment. I think that pretty much rules him out for a long period of time at least. I don't know how long I don't know if it's a season injury or not. I don't know if it's a 1 or 2 months injury, but it didn't look good from what I saw. And I think that again, even if we were going to do a deal for Barry, which would be familiar territory, it was always going to be a loan deal in January anyway. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Anyone else who comes in, we're not gonna know what to expect. So one to keep an eye on potentially, and thanks for shouting that one out. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Um, throughout this window, what one thing I do want to see tomorrow is I want to see a back four. I think it looks more like a back four than what I saw on Sunday, as opposed to sort of three at the back it's been more recently or across the whole season. I want to see a back four. I want to see Josh Stokes play, and I'll go through that team news now. I'm a bit blocked up. I've got a bit of a cold coming on as well. I do apologise for that. So back four is what I want to see, and the team I'm going to go with is I don't think Cheltenham will necessarily pick it, but I think it's probably the team that gives us the best chance of winning. Interesting goal. It's a low we at right back, just because I don't really have any options at right back other than Jin. I don't know if I'd throw him in right at the deep end against a team that's doing really well at the moment. Probably give him minutes against Harrogate, to be honest, and see how he does. So it's a logo at right back, Hills and Ethan Pies, the two in the middle, Taylor Eden at left back, North Osborne in midfield, and it's Fevs on the right, Diamond on the left, Josh Stokes behind the striker, and Cal Wootton obviously. That would be the team I'd like to see us go with. So I want to get your thoughts in who you would like to see start the game tomorrow, but I think that would give us the best chance of winning. We'll get people's thoughts as well on the back five or back three versus the back four. What are people's preferences? Because for me personally, I always prefer back four. 9 times out of 10, I prefer back four. But I think that this season, I've almost said I prefer to a back five purely because I think we built the squad around that. I think that's you bring in wing backs, we built the squad around that. Obviously, with O'Keefe going back, hopefully we can dip into the market for a right back. If it's a right back over a right wing back, it gives us the option to go back to a back four more, in my opinion. So I always prefer a back four. I think it's I think the back five, especially at home, I think it's too negative. I think we've probably got results away from home this season because you can afford away from home to be a little bit more on the back foot and a little bit more soak up the pressure and out on the counter. A bit like what we did against Huddersfield actually with when we went a man down. So you can afford to sit away from home. You can't play at home and sit back and play a back five. And I think that's why we've struggled so much this season when at home and done so well when away from home. I think at home it's on you to be the dominant side to control the game of football and to try and basically stop the other team from countering you through having a midfield which is strong enough to support the team in attack, but also support that defence when others are going forward. And I mean, the midfield hasn't been strong enough this season, but I also think the back five has been too negative at Edgeley Park, and hopefully we'll see players coming in, in January that allow us to be a little bit more on the front foot because I think that who doesn't want to see their team on the front foot? Like I say, I think sometimes we forget as well. Obviously, the aim this season is promotion. We want to get up to the championship and all that kind of stuff. But when you really boil it down, football's an entertainment. We want to be entertained as fans. Can anyone really say they've been that entertained this season, especially at Edgeley Park? The best games have been away from home. The best games this season, when I reel them off, I think Wickham away, second game, just because of the pure excitement of having the football back. Although it was a very nervy last 10, 15 minutes. Probably the Mansfield win, obviously, because of, what was it, 40 odd years without a win. We went and did it. Huddersfield away, because the atmosphere when we got those the second goal, and what a goal it was from Odin Bailey. A lot of the best, the better games have come away from home for the most part. So, yeah, I think we need to be a bit more on the front foot, um, and try and entertain fans because you've got to remember it's an entertainment sport, and hopefully we will be entertained tomorrow because also as well it's on Sky. It's on a not main event, but it's on Sky Sports football, isn't it? Or might be Plus, who knows? But it's on Sky, so you know teams or other players will be looking at players that we might be looking at might go, you know what, County interested me. I'll watch that game. If they watch the way we're playing at the moment, they might not sign for us almost. I mean, I might be being a bit ridiculous there, but it has been a pretty poor watch at times this season. I think we're gonna see an improvement in the second half, second half of the season. I said it, maybe a few weeks ago. The second half of last season was so strong, and we only lost 2 games really in the regular season after losing to Mansfield. I think that we need to go on a run like that, and this season if we're going to get promotion, and I want to be entertained as a fan, so hopefully we'll see that. Louis Barry has had 2 serious knee injuries and a hamstring injury. He's a bit injury prone. I mean, that's putting it politely. He's more than a bit injury prone. Um, but that's the thing for me. I think that as well, if you want to look at Louis Barry, who isn't a fan of Louis Barry? County, he's everyone's favourite player, even though he doesn't play for us. He was an exciting player to watch, but again, you look at it and you go, we had him 2 seasons on loan. Half a season was cut short, but then a month afterwards he got injured at Hull anyway. So he used to say he wouldn't have got injured if he'd stayed with us. And then you go, okay, it was amazing first, month or 2 months of the season the year before. Got injured in the October against Crewe away. Um, missed the majority of the season. So we've had him for 2 seasons, and we've maybe had just under 1 full season game time out of him. So that's the thing for me. Brilliant player on his day, absolutely, amazing the numbers he can put up, considering he basically plays you half a season. Uh, and even him giving you half a season loan is probably worth buying him for. But again, he's going to cost an absurd amount, I think. And Villa will still have high expectations of what they can get for him. That's built off the ceiling value they were probably looking at a year ago. They'll want to loan him out again to League One and hope that they can try and get what they might have got this time last year from him. So, but I think Barry's a pipe dream, isn't it? I don't think it's ever going to happen. And if it does, a bit like a lot of county players, he'll be constantly in the physio room and medical room, won't he? So, yeah, he's one of those. I mean, even Josh Stokes, Chow and I alluded to it in his statement when he signed about him, being injured the first half of the season, a fragmented start to the season. What is it with us playing or bringing in players that are continuously injured? They either come in with an injury record. Put it this way, with County, they either come in with an injury record, and if they don't, they certainly leave with an injury record. So there's something needs to be looked into there because something hasn't been right, and a lot of time, we're talking about injuries being the barrier to us doing better in the league. So, at what point does it become something that we have to seriously address? But yeah, anyway, in terms of tomorrow, I wouldn't say I'm completely, fully confident that we'll get a result, but I think we have to put in a stronger performance. I think the players will realise that, we have to put in, an improved performance than what we've seen recently. We've got to get a result. We certainly can't afford to lose this game tomorrow. I think if we were to lose it, we could potentially drop out of the playoffs, and I think that, the fan base could get really toxic if we were to lose it. So I think the players know they've got to be up for it. And it's time to start being a bit more serious now because there's so many missed opportunities across this season, and we're very lucky we're still in a position with the points we've dropped that we're still 6th in the table, and we've still got an opportunity to get playoffs and still got an outside possibility of still getting the automatics. So we're really, I think we're really lucky that we've been playing in such a poor season that we've continuously dropped points, and the opportunity is still there for us. So, um, yeah, I think that tomorrow we've got to really show something different, and hopefully we do that. Genuine question: which Huddersfield player, if any, would you have instead of a county player tomorrow? Really interesting question. Pardon me on that one. Very interesting question. Probably the keeper, essentially. I mean, I don't know much about Lee Nichols, but we've had issues with the keeper. And he's obviously a club legend. Um, But I think everyone would say that, him and Corey Adai have both had problems this season. They haven't conceded, actually, they have conceded a lot of goals this season, but I don't know, I mean, I don't think there's I think it's hard, isn't it, when you look at their team? I mean, I'd have to go through their list of players. I think there's players at other teams. Um, if you're gonna ask me about players generally across the league, I think Lewis Wing, for example, Charlie Savage even, I think would he's a bit of a reckless midfielder, isn't he? I think he'd do a job in that midfield at times, especially over some of the players we do have. The obvious answer would be someone like a Castledine who's obviously just moved on, and, I think they feel like they've had their fingers burnt as well a little bit. They brought in players over the last few years. Brought in, Joe Taylor, I think it was it Luton? 3,000,000. Not really worked out for them, I think. Not really scored goals they would have liked. Dion Charles brought in from Bolton, a lot of hype around him. Probably, like, from what I've heard, hasn't really hit the ground running. The obvious answer would be someone like an Alfie May. He's got a decent, strong record, got promoted last season, of course, with Birmingham. I'd probably say Alfie May, but I don't know if he'd be instead of, but more alongside what we do have. Uh, I don't think there's many players where again, I mean, I don't have huge knowledge of players, throughout League One, so Huddersfield-wise, I'd go with Alfie May. Would be the easy sort of answer almost as well. But I tell you what, maybe I might have a better way of answering that question this time tomorrow, depending on the performance and the result. More importantly from the game. But like I say, not fully confident. I do think it'll be a draw, score draw. At least it'll be entertaining. And then we've got a virtual trophy game on the Tuesday. I think it is against Harrogate. We should look to win that one as well. I'm all for progressing further in the cup because it does give us opportunities to potentially go to Wembley, which I think would be a really positive thing for us, and it just be a feel-good factor, wouldn't it? Um, and also as well, I might be wrong on this, but if County got to the Virtue Trophy final, am I right in thinking that Malik Mothersill would be on to win it for the 3rd time in a row, um, essentially? So, yeah, look, I think I still think there's a really I still think the potential's there to have a really bright end to the season, like I say, get promoted via playoffs or automatics, potentially out at Wembley as well in the Virtue Trophy final should we get there. But I think we do need to, to have a really strong second half of the season. Hopefully we have that. Like I say, tomorrow will be interesting because it's 2 teams scrapping out at the top, um, and hopefully it's County come out on top. I will be, bringing out the match, vlog from tomorrow's game as well, so keep your eyes out for that one. Do want to say a big thanks to everyone who's tuned in live. Obviously, got the comments in as well. Thanks for everyone who watches afterwards. Don't forget to take your thoughts, and I will read them. I always read every comment, as long as I possibly can. I do try and read every comment. So, uh, always put your thoughts in. Like I say, big thanks to everyone. Hopefully, it's a win tomorrow, I can't get away from the fact I think it's going to end up being a draw. So, be interesting either way. But yeah, big thanks to everyone, and hopefully we'll get that win tomorrow. And hopefully you'll all see the match day vlog as well, and hopefully it'll be one to remember. But for now, see you tomorrow.